there are certain things everybody agrees on. We agree that children are precious. We agree that puppies are adorable. And we agree that all the Sony Spider-Man villain movies are awesome. We all, yeah, no, obviously being a bit facetious here, but you know, we've had a lot of Sony Spider-Man less villain movies. And you know what? I don't care what anybody says. I'll still stand by it. I love Venom. I love Venom. I even liked Venom 2. Venom 3, not so much. But the Venom movies, contrary to popular belief, I did an editorial on this where I broke down all the numbers a while ago. The Venom movies were very profitable for Sony. However, they convinced me that Morbius was going to be really good because I thought the trailers for Morbius were great. I'm not going to lie. I'm not going to change history. I thought the trailers for Morbius looked really good. And I was excited for that movie, and it sucked. I remember the early word that didn't end up being the actual story, but I remember the early word of what the Madam Web story was going to be, which sounded a little bit like Spider-Man crossed with Terminator. And I thought, you know what, this could be really intriguing. This could be real. Oh, no. But then came Craven. And I'm like, this time, they're going to do it. This movie is going to be awesome, I thought. This looks great. Aaron Taylor Johnson, Ricky Tikki Taki is going to be fantastic in this. This is going to be great. And they punched me in the balls again. And you think I would have learned after the first two, but they did not. Now, oddly enough, in this time, we have not heard much about what's going to be their next. You know, I don't know, Paul Giamatti coming back for a Rhino standalone movie? Maybe, who knows? But apparently now, the Sony boss is saying, we're not making any more.
He tapped out.
At least, we're tapping out. At least for now. At least for now. This is what Rothman had to say in an interview with Variety. Variety asked him, I was curious about the status of Sony's Marvel characters because, in which Rothman replied, you and everybody else. The interviewer went on to say, the Venom trilogy was huge, but other spin-offs like Kraven, the Hunter, and Madam Web, and Morbius were misfires. Why didn't those work? And he says probably the right thing to say. He says, ultimately, the audience wasn't satisfied enough with them because they sucked. Whether that's a fair assessment of those movies, who knows? That's howling into the wind. The audience is the boss, and they didn't respond. It's as simple as that. Oh, and I don't know, you went out and hired the proven worst screenwriters in the industry to keep coming back and write more. That might have had something to do with it, but I digress. I'm interpreting here. That led us to the big question. Are there plans to keep developing Sony's universe of Marvel characters? To which he says, right now, we don't know. We never looked at it as the Sony Marvel universe. Actually, you really did. You referred to it as that several times a few years ago. But at any rate, we never looked at it as the Sony Marvel universe. We looked at it as if there were worthwhile movies to make with other characters. At the moment, there are none in active development. Now, before we dive into it with any kind of depth, I just want to double down on something here. You're seeing a lot of headlines this morning reading, it's official, Sony cancels their Marvel Spider-Verse movies. It's done, blah, blah, blah. If we want to be accurate and specific, he's saying we don't have any more planned right now. So that might mean they don't make any more. It might mean in 1 year they come out and announce 3 new movies. We don't know. But what we can say for sure and is accurate is to say that at the moment, they don't have any plans for new ones right now. But he certainly did not say that we're never going to go back to it. Maybe they don't, maybe they do, but just want to make sure we're clear on what it is he's saying here. Now, it's not a coincidence that I think this answer is coming on the heels of Sony hearing the bank numbers rolling in for Spider-Man and hearing that cash register cha-ching going off again and again and again. Because remember, Spider-Man Brand New Day is Sony's movie, despite the fact that Marvel's the one who produced it. and they are going to do a profit share on this movie. So they are going to be making the technical term is in the banking world, a shit ton of money on this Spider-Man movie. And of course, they've got their Academy Award winning franchise, Spider-Man, Spider-Verse stuff rolling out. And so it's understandable. But here's the big question, though. As far as I understand the deal, and I just recently did an editorial on understanding the Spider-Man rights. You can find it on the YouTube channel. It stipulates that a Spider-Man movie needs to be in production I can't remember the exact time frame, but it's every couple of years. You have to be in production of a new one.
Right.
Not for nothing, Marvel produced Spider-Man movies like Spider-Man Brand New Day count towards resetting the clock. And with this one just hitting theaters right now, they do have some time to make up their mind if they want to go into production on another one or another animated film or whatever. So there's all that. To me, though, guys, I got to say that the lesson from Morbius, Madam Web, and Kraven is not that you can't make high quality and successful standalone movies with these characters from the Spider-Verse. It's that you've got to make good movies because none of them were good. It's not a coincidence that these movies did badly and they all happen to be absolute garbage. Like, that's not a coincidence. It's not a coincidence that the first Venom, which I thought was wildly entertaining, made over $800 million at the box office. The lesson is not, oh, movies with Spider-Man characters without Spider-Man can't work. That's not the lesson they should be taking away here. It's that you guys made every conceivable mistake possible in making those movies, from the casting to who's writing to all that kind of stuff. I mean, it's a no-brainer. So my guess is, Kristian, I think by the end of 2027, I think by the time we get to Avengers Secret Wars, I do think we'll hear an announcement of Sony producing another movie. And listen, not for nothing, and I know this is an unpopular thing to say, but I don't care. The 3 best Spider-Man movies ever made were all made by Sony. To me, in my opinion, Sam Raimi's Spider-Man 2, Into the Spider-Verse, and Across the Spider-Verse. I think those are still the 3 greatest Spider-Man movies ever made. I think Brand New Day is the best of the Tom Holland era ones. So I believe they can make great movies. They can, but I think the failure of these other films had more to do with their failures as films and not the fact that they happen to be Spider-Man characters. So anyway, Kristian, couple of questions for you on this. Number one, what do you take away from the comments here? Because I think these are some pretty interesting things he says. And then secondly, do you believe that's it? Or do you believe, like me, that at some point that we will get announcements about new movies they're going to do? What do you think?
Well, listening to Rothman's comments, it reminds me, like, my grandmother used to say this actually too. That guy's full of shit. And like, there's a lot of stuff that he was saying that, like, where you called him out and you said, "Well, we didn't ever really call it that." Well, what about when you guys were doing the Sinister Six and you guys were gonna design everything around that? That's kind of what that is. But yeah, and it's also, well, they didn't respond to it because you guys were lazy. You got, like you said, you got, how do we cut costs on screenwriters and this and that, and how do we do that? And it goes back to what we were discussing when it comes to treating the audience with respect and saying, you could see it in the boardroom. Oh, they'll love this. You put them in a put the lion thing on them, and then we'll cut a cool trailer. They'll go and see it. They buy all this shit. Any comic book thing, they go and see it. It'll be fine. It'll make money. And it's like, no, it won't, because the difference was, as you mentioned, the teams. You got to have a great team. There's a reason besides it. It's not just, well, they don't have Marvel, they don't have MCU, and that's why they don't have the Feige and those guys, and that's why it didn't succeed. Well, Lord and Miller say otherwise. That team that they put over there, they knew what they were making. And it's the main thing, the same thing with Feige and the same thing with Lord and Miller. They understand the content. They understand what it is, and they're fans of it. When you have people who are just hired guns to come in to write, hey, you want to write a comic book movie? And they come in and then they give the standard, oh, I used to love this thing. What is this? Oh, yeah, Morbius. I love it. And you're like, you don't. And by the way, the only thing with that movie that was pretty great was the first time I had ever seen Adria Arjona. So thanks for that. But the actual movie itself was shit. The rest of those movies were shit because they didn't they didn't care. And you could see that they didn't care and they didn't put enough effort into it and it wasn't written well and it was, so you can do these things. And but you have to try to coordinate with Marvel and spin off things to make people care. I won't spoil Brand New Day, but there's stuff that happens within Brand New Day that will help carry over to the future of Marvel. And there are characters within that movie that when they pop up now in other movies, you're going to be invested because you were invested in the story that they had in Brand New Day. And that's what you need to do in order to spin off things. You got to make me care, not just because, oh yeah, Spider-Man, passed by this guy one time and gave him a nod. Full movie. It's like, no one cares. You got to make me care. And they can do it, but they've got to treat the audience and the property with respect.
Yeah, I mean, here's a wild thing. I remember when I did this editorial on the finances of it. I mean, and guys, I know this is going to sound unbelievable, but we broke down all the numbers. You can go and check it yourself. Here's a crazy thing. When you count Madam Web, Morbius, and Craven, do you know that Sony has actually made profit on all their movies? Like not counting the Tobey Maguire, Andrew Garfield ones. I'm talking about Venoms 1, 2, and 3, the 3 aforementioned shitbags, and the 2 Spider-Verse movies.
That was the working title, by the way. After the shitbags.
Yeah. Some reason they decided to change it.
They changed it.
They actually ends up profitable, which is crazy to think about, but still, I think you're right, Kristian. You have to approach each one of these movies as you would any other project. And you've got to approach, like, you want to build a cinematic universe, fine. Then there's some other mistakes they made too, but just make a great standalone movie. Just make this movie good. And if
John,
they
let me ask you a
that,
question.
they can work.
John, I don't know if you know this because I keep asking this question. I have not got an answer to it. Maybe you know. So I always felt like, speaking of spin-off stuff and where Sony owns Spider-Man, I thought that when they did No Way Home and they basically made Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man so beloved again in that movie.
He's my favorite.
The arc that he had was tremendous. And then by bringing back Tobey and they set up almost like this buddy relationship between the two of them, I don't know why they didn't already have in development a movie with the two of them, a double Spider-Man movie with the two of them. I don't know if it's a deal that Disney says you can't do another Spider-Man while Tom Holland's thing is still going on. I don't know if that's a deal. I have no idea. But how they didn't either greenlight something like that or a Amazing Spider-Man 3 or a Spider-Man 4 with Tobey Maguire, those are the spin-off movies you can do now, because the difference of it being, it's not as confusing anymore, because when there's the argument of the Batman being confusing with Brave and the Bold, because they're two different universes. You have introduced these two Spider-Men inside of Marvel. So they're part of the characters, so you can spin it off, and that's a spin-off movie. Who wouldn't want to see an Andrew Garfield Spider-Man movie after that, and another Tobey Maguire movie after that? I don't understand why that wasn't put into play.
Your instinct was right. It was, Sony cannot make, because of Disney, they cannot make their own competing live action Spider-Man movie.
That makes sense. Okay.
As long as they're doing that. Now, Sony can say no more live action Spider-Man over being produced by Marvel and then make their own. But as long as Marvel is producing live action Spider-Man, Marvel and Disney don't want there to be competing live action Spider-Man.
That makes sense.
In another studio.
But sense.
You're right. I would go see both. Right. I would totally go see both. Anyway, guys, question is for you. What do you think about this? I mean, right now the Sony chairman is saying, yeah, we don't have any more Spider-Verse kind of movies planned over at Sony for now. Like, maybe that becomes a permanent thing. I mean, they got the new Spider-Verse movie coming out. That's going to reset the clock. The new Spider-Man's here. They're probably going to already in the planning stages for the next live action Spider-Man. Or maybe, as I think, they will announce a new one by the end of 2027. Maybe yes, maybe no. Whatever you guys think about this, jump down into the comments section below and let us know your thoughts. Guys, we want to take a second and thank a sponsor of today's video, Mars Men. Guys, you know that one of the frustrating things about getting older is realizing that the things that used to come naturally suddenly require a lot more effort. You wake up tired, workouts feel harder, recovery takes longer, and by the middle of the afternoon, your energy and focus can completely disappear. And that's where Mars Men comes in. Mars Men is designed to support healthy testosterone levels, natural energy, and stamina using 8 clinically dosed ingredients. There are absolutely no synthetics or needles, and it's made in the USA and third-party tested. Some men report steadier energy, stronger workouts, and better recovery, and it comes with a 90-day money-back guarantee. For a limited time, our listeners get 50% off for life, plus free shipping and 3 free gifts at mengotomars.com. That's mengotomars.com for 50% off and 3 free gifts when you check out. After you purchase, they'll ask you where you heard about them. Please support the John Campea Show and tell them we sent you.